You're listening to The Audit, presented by IT Audit Labs. I'm your co-host and producer, Joshua Schmidt. We have the usual suspects, Eric Brown, our managing director, and Nick Mellum, coming from Texas. Today, our guest is Carter Jensen from The Uncommon Business. We had the pleasure of joining Carter and his colleague, Callan, this last summer on an extensive AI workshop that we all learned a lot in. And so we've become friends and had him over for a speaking event at the IT Audit Labs office in July. So we had to bring him on the podcast. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Carter. If you could give us a little background on you and what you're working on now. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks guys so much. And thanks for having me here today. It was an absolute pleasure to host you guys in our Automate to Accelerate group. I think it was the last spring. And then I got to come see the office, and now it sounds like game night is in tow. So I heard you have a wicked Wednesday night game night that I have to jump into every now and then. But yeah, I lead curriculum and innovation at the Uncommon Business, and my main focus and our focus as a company is to really bring tangible AI education to business founders and business leaders. We do our best to leave all the sparkle and the fluff and the shiny objects to the side and introduce tools and products that you can immediately insert into your business regardless of the industry or category you might be in. So we've been on a little bit of a tear for the last 12 months. We're a quick growing company, but we could not be more excited about what we've been able to do, and really excited to see you guys again.
And Carter, do we still have access to when we attended class? I think they were all recorded. Do we still have access to those recordings?
Yeah, for sure. You have access for a full year. Yep.
Oh, great. I got to go back and listen to some of that
stuff.
Go
back and check it out. And of course, you got my phone number. So if you need anything, you just let me know.
Sweet. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure.
I can attest to just how much I learned. And Eric was just asking me this at game night last Wednesday, like, what are you using from the class? And it's completely changed my workflow. I've been able to take on way more projects. We just spun up basically 2 more podcasts right before we had a couple of colleagues, Nick being one of them, going paternity, maternity leave. And just everything from writing copy to, timestamps from transcripts to coming up with questions for podcasts to writing emails. Everything has been totally optimized in my workflow thanks to your class. So
that's incredible.
Once again, thank you
awesome.
for that. And furthermore, IT Audit Labs, we're in a growth phase. I think we've been around now 3 or 4 about years, maybe a little bit more, and we're really, really starting to hit a new gear. So what have you seen AI bring to the table with growing businesses like IT Audit Labs and some of the other people you've worked with?
Yeah, and you said it perfect, Josh. I mean, one of the things that we see is when implemented correctly, right? And when implemented in, honestly, a non-traditional way, we see that teams like yourselves can get 2 or 3x out of a workday. And one of the things we like to talk about is everyone was hired for what you do or started your business for a reason, right? You have this genius, you're special, you are unique. But when we actually go back and audit our days, how much time are you actually spending within that zone of genius, right? So much of our days are filled with expense reports and emails. And, when you think about even this podcast, right? It's getting the links up and getting the descriptions and all of this. And we focus a ton on those kind of, I don't want to call them low value tasks, but tasks that are more administrative and tasks that pull you away from your true job. And we find ways to put that into the AI system so that you can focus more on what you are best at. And I think that's one of the things that we just it lights me up every day, because we hear stories like you, Josh, of being able to take on 3 more podcasts, navigating parental leaves, allowing you to do 2-3x more work throughout the day that's more impactful, but yet still get home at 5 o'clock, right? And I think that, though it seems basic, is kind of the magic of AI that I think so many people are missing, right? They think they can buy this tool and everything's going to be fixed, or they think if they just make this one investment into this one platform that they've figured out AI. And we have found that that couldn't be any more wrong, right? And the real answer is truly go back to the simple solutions that get you back into that zone of genius. And that's one of the my favorite things that we do every day with business leaders like yourselves.
I've been using AI for a while before this, right? And I think my skills just got so much more sharp during this, or maybe unlocked different ways of thinking about it, building prompts, etc. But a more specific win that I was going to call out was, here at IT Labs, we're doing so much cybersecurity stuff, obviously, but one specific task that we've been working on after hours is an open source intelligence game. So it's a teaching tool game you could bring to a conference. I mean, many different uses for this. But
Love
the
that.
goal is to learn open source intelligence. It could be a school, it could be somebody later on in their career. So we were having some troubles connecting the dots with some of the parts of this game. Well, our good friend Claude came and helped. We put the game into Claude, what we had, gave it a bunch of a prompt we made, told it about the game, what our end goal was, and what we had so far. And Claude came in like we had 20 other workers. And it was so excited to be working with us. Like, I would feed it back. Thank you so much for this. This was awesome. You did such a great job. And it was like, this is the highlight of my life to be working with you guys on this game, et cetera, et cetera. But the way that it was able to speed us up or pick, maybe something that was going to take us 6 months longer, it probably cut at least 6 months off of the working load for 3 other people, including me.
Yeah, so, incredible, Nick. Yeah, were you using it as a developer? Were you using it as a marketer? Were you using it as a product owner? How were you leveraging Claude in that situation?
It was actually both, I would say, or all the above, because it was spitting. We were using Claude to develop marketing for it, like pictures and other graphics, and then I would actually take that and feed it to ChatGPT to give me the output for the pictures. Because
that's incredible.
Because Claude wasn't doing pictures, and I could feed that prompt in that because it already knew everything about the game, so it was giving me a perfect output for the picture. But I put it into ChatGPT for that, and then actually writing the questions for the players. And the answers, it was writing the flags for the players, because the goal of this is to find the flag in different social media outlets or whatever it may be. We're hiding these things in on the internet, basically.
Sure.
So how are we leading people there? It was writing the story that we'd already give it, rewriting it, right? And fixing some errors. And if we had a problem within the game, we'd go back to Claude and be like, do you remember at location 2, we had the players do this. We're running into this problem. How could we resolve this? And it would give us like 4 options and then a best one. It'd say like, I recommend this. So it was like we unlocked 20 people doing this.
Now, what's incredible about that, beyond the obvious, is you're not talking about some $50,000 a month subscription to some fancy coding tool, right? You're not talking about some off-the-shelf, AI and marketing shiny thing. You're truly talking about the $20 a month, maybe a little bit more if you're using Claude Code, but you're truly talking about duplicating what you all do so best, is building these experiences to teach people about this in a way that you never would have been able to with the size of and time and investment, et cetera, all within, again, that $20 a month tool. And that's just so fundamental to what we think about is there's so many shiny objects out there, but the reality is the true unlocks come from just these core tools and actually knowing how to use them and knowing how to integrate them into a challenge like you just described, Nick. And that's absolutely perfect.
That's awesome. Eric wanted to do a little bit of a fun icebreaker here that
Love it.
We usually inject into the beginning. But I was going to say, what is everyone's favorite creation or creative creation built from AI? So I'll go first. My example would be these Motown rehashes that are happening on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen them, where they're taking a 90s grunge song, whether it Smells Like Teen Spirit, or the one I recently saw was Stone Temple Pilots' Interstate Love Song was turned into like a Motown song with soul singers. And it's gotten to the point now where it's amazingly good, right? And I'm not quite sure as a musician, like what the inputs are. I'm kind of curious as to how much they're messing with each little parameter, but yeah, I think it's incredibly cool. The arrangements, the musicality that's coming across is kind of scary.
I thought you wouldn't like that, Josh, because it's infringing on your work.
Well, it was kind of AI slop, as they call it, right? Up until 10 minutes ago. And just within the last few weeks, late night YouTube scrolling, I've been coming across some of these. And doing some late night rabbit holes. And the ones that are coming out now are actually really good.
And Josh, we're using that music during the game nights, when it's kind of like, close your eyes when the game master is going through the sequence of events of things that happen at night during the Blood on the Clock Tower game. We're using those as you said, those Motown kind of AI mashups that you might have heard.
Yeah, Jamie needs to pump the brakes on some of those tunes that he's picking there. But yeah, that's my favorite creation. I'm sure you guys have seen some other things. Doesn't have to be music, but I'm curious. We can do a little popcorn style here and share kind of our famous findings.
I'm having a hard time picking one That would be my favorite. But I think something that's coming up and we're seeing is like real-time language translation. I think it's super cool. Like now the new AirPods, Carter, I see you've got AirPods and I wear AirPods a lot. I think the Pro 2 and I don't know, maybe they all are doing it now with software, but specifically the number 2 and number 3, they have language translation where you can download and you can have that conversation. So, I mean, if I were to pick one right now, I think that, AI assisting in translating languages if you're traveling or wherever situation you're in.
Oh wow! It was only a couple years ago. Remember, you could take a picture of like a sign that was in a foreign language and it would translate.
Yeah. I saw some people on YouTube taking this feature and going to a nail salon thinking they could hear the background, what the people are talking about. I guess it didn't work quite well, but I'm assuming we'll be there soon.
Eric, do you got a favorite discovery?
When Midjourney first came out, I kind of got enamored with Midjourney a bit, which was the ability to create images from text, and that was maybe a year and a half or so ago, and that was kind of fun because it would you'd have these crazy inputs and you can get pretty specific, like use a Carl Zeiss lens or whatever you want to kind of create the image, and the images at that time were not perfect. Like humans are coming out with like 5 fingers or whatever, or 6 fingers, because AI can't do hands or couldn't do hands real well back then. But I still like just the raw large language model because I'm still fascinated by it. Right, like it's all it is a great word predictor, and we've ascribed so much to what quote unquote large language models are, but all they are is really good at interpreting human language and predicting what the next logical word is in that conversation. And it doesn't understand. It's it's just a great predictor, but yet it seems so damn real. So it's almost like the wizard behind the curtain. And I just love that because I use it all the time. Right, you can throw data into it. You're going to get a good response back. You could even have conversations with it to kind of help work through things that you're working on, and it produces generally some really good stuff. But it amazes me how it works when it doesn't really have that conceptual understanding of truly what it is that it's not truly thinking like a human.
That's awesome. I know, Carter, you're deep into this world, so I'm curious to hear what one of your favorite shocking findings or something you found interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we get to see so many great case studies every day from the people we get to work with. And so I was struggling a little bit to figure out what was a personal win, because every day we see these breakthroughs and we get to see these breakthroughs. We could probably get into some examples later on. But from a personal perspective, one of my best friends just retired from the service after 20 years, and we weren't able to make his ceremony down in North Carolina. So we wanted to give him something. We got kind of this book of memories of kind of his life, and we wanted pictures of all ourselves. And the new image models, kind of, jumping into a little bit about what some of you guys said, are absolutely incredible. And we use it just for a simple photo editor, which I know seems trite, but at the end of the day, it was so good where we could upload photos that maybe had people in it, or it was cropped in the wrong way, or we needed it to have a higher resolution or whatever it might be. And we were able to pump this book out so fast because we were able to remove people from different scenes. We were able to place people in different places. And it came out with this really professional looking book. And it was really the first time I had seen AI image generation work to the quality of print, right? And I know this doesn't seem applicable to many as we live in this digital world, but it was the first time I saw that manipulation work so well that we could actually print a high definition book with these edits, and no one will ever be the wiser of the edits that were actually made. And so I think it's just this new territory of image generation, image editing, image manipulation that's going to be absolutely wild to see what we do with it.
And do you think that generation's getting closer to being just like a human experience where, up until recently, you could really tell the difference between the music or the text that's being generated? And I'm assuming what you're meaning, behind the scenes, these prompts or the architecture of these prompts can really influence just how personalized these the creations can be.
Yeah, it's the prompts with the technology, the two married together to give you that output, right? And we were using Google's new, well, it's not really new anymore, but the Nano Banana model, which is a funny name, but one of the best image models out there, especially for editing. And, we use it in business all the time. We see our clients using it a ton. But, when you actually get like a real world application, there's a need, there's a barrier in front of you, and you look across kind of that core tool set and you say, hey, this is going to be the perfect thing. And so quickly with the right prompt and that right tech, again, conjoining together, that then allowed us to get so many things done that would have, been a pain to actually get manually figured out. And so I think that was really unique. Again, that first time we saw it actually come to life, while also just alleviating a problem that we had and actually delivering something really meaningful and awesome to a good buddy of ours. So I think that's like what I love to focus on, is that real life, tangible example of things where, hey, like it all comes together and it works so flawlessly. It's magic.
So can you walk us through what you mean by AI architecture when you're talking about that at the uncommon business instead of just being a button pusher? I feel like a lot of these tasks that people are doing are kind of button pushing, and I'm guilty of that as well. But
100%.
where's that paradigm shift between being a button pusher and an actual architect?
Yeah, so we live in this this world now where, ChatGPT is not new for anyone. We're 4 years into this journey. And when I look across, the 1,000 people we bring into the party every couple months, most people no longer are worried about what is ChatGPT? What is a large language model? How do those things work, et cetera? But what we see is that most people, we call them AI offloaders, right? This idea that you are that button pusher, Josh, as you just talked about. You're someone who goes to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your tool is and use it like Google, right? You say, write me a great email or send me a blog post, or for this, like write me a description for a podcast, right? And so many people either take that for the face value and use it, which is the worst case scenario, or they immediately discount the ability for AI to do anything, right? It's like, well, it's not that good at writing emails. It's not that good at, doing whatever's in front of you. And the reality is that architecture, Josh, you brought up, it's this idea of how do you use it as that thought partner? Good AI architects are great communicators because they're able to articulate in the right way, in the right format. They can really dial in what they're asking for. And that's when the models come to life, when you can train them, when you can tune them, when you challenge them. And that is the real difference, I think, when you talk about button pusher, like so many people these days are button pushers. And unfortunately, that doesn't break, the barrier of true value we see with our clients.
Carter, one of the things that we're working on is an AI voice-enabled help desk where users can call in and the AI voice, like Air AI, maybe 6 months ago was kind of at the top of the game of this, and I'm sure there's others now, but where it could triage, it could take down who the user is, what their problem is, and then route it through a ticketing system on the back end, and then maybe there's PagerDuty or something like that to reach out to the tech team who would resolve the case. Have you seen any of your customers working with something like that, and what's the experience been so far?
Yeah, it's absolutely wild, and it's such a great program and project that you guys are embarking on. I think the reality is that 80-90% of the calls that have come in are something you've dealt with before, right? There are things that you have in your records, you all have done 100 different times, you know exactly what needs to happen. And it's when that data gets loaded in, all of a sudden that assistant and that call center, or however you want to call it, becomes really powerful because it's based on the knowledge of the business that you guys have built. And it's based on all of your past client experience. And even if you were to manually do that, if you were to have a call center, if you were to have someone sitting at the front desk taking these calls and manually routing them, et cetera, they only remember so much. They can only be trained so much. But when you have the ability to have something that's all knowing and all seeing, take this on and get the best response back for your customers, like that's absolutely wild. So we see it a ton. We see a couple different things. The most straightforward way we see it is through simple text, right? So email, SMS, those types of things where you auto-generate drafts, you auto-route different, in your case, tickets, and it's a really good experience because customers are getting what they want really quickly. The answers are usually better than what the human could provide. And the backside, your efficiency is just out of this world. You can scale that infinitely. And now we're just seeing voice really come into play because I'm sure as you guys have seen, there's kind of two things happening. One, voice is getting really good, right? People are, the intonations and all of that is getting really, really good. The second thing is that we see for our customers, clients, right? They actually don't really care that it's AI, because there's this new world where I actually know that AI can answer a problem or a question that I have better than a human could. Like, why is there a human answering this? Like,
Yes.
I know that if I just talk to an AI, like, I'm going to get what I need quickly. So, customers or clients are actually, they don't really care anymore. Even if they do hear it's AI, it's fine because they know it's going to be so good. As you kind of have those two things coming together, which is a really interesting way to think about how fast this is going to grow.
I was just having this conversation the other day that as we're crossing that bridge from the IVR, that old, system where it's like, okay, press 1 to talk to sales and whatever, right? And then kind of this, robot gets in the mix and you just start yelling operator at the thing, right? Because you need to get
Slamming
to a human.
zero.
Yeah. Because it's going to just get you in this loop and it's not going to work. But today, and I would imagine we're not far off. Maybe it's a year away where, like as you said, that AI is going to have that really deep knowledge base. It's going to be able to answer the question faster and more accurately than a human. And we're not far off from saying, AI, right? Like if a human answers, no, I want to talk to the AI because I'm not going to have to wait on hold. I'm going to get the answer and I'm going to get the help that I need faster. So I love it, how it's all coming together, and it's probably not too far off where AI in that capacity is going to surpass what the human operator can offer.
100%. One of the weirdest examples I've seen of this work so well, and you guys are all going to shake your heads when I say this, is actually the Xfinity AI assistant, right? A company known for absolute horrible customer service, et cetera. And the AI assistant through that not only is incredibly smart because they see and know the solutions to common problems, but it is truly agentic. And by that, I mean, it has tools that it can deploy agentically to fix your problem. And so I would encourage you to try it sometime. It's a really interesting experience because the first thing it's going to do is it will search for any outages or any repairs happening in your area. And so it'll instantly come back and say, hey, the last repair we saw in your area was actually 3 days ago. Everything shows green on our side. And then it can actually, and you can deem whether people think this is creepy or not. For me, I don't care if it gets me to the end solution. It knows the last time your router was restarted. It knows what's connected to it. It knows how it's configured. And it can actually do router resets, router restarts, everything like that, all just through an automated chat. And it's just really interesting how the company has not only built, a chat assistant that's really helpful, but you've armed it in a true agentic way with these tools that can actually take control of your system and actually perform repairs without ever rolling a truck or without ever having to talk to someone that has to transfer you 4 different places in order to get it done. So anyways, a quick case study that is probably really confusing for anyone who's worked with Xfinity, but it's one of the best examples I've seen.
Is it voice or is it text?
This one, well, it's right now it's just text, or the way at least I have interfaced with it. But you can think the infrastructure's there, right? And so, easy said than done, but once the infrastructure's there should be no reason why voice couldn't be added to the top of it.
Carter, you've introduced us to a lot of firsts, but calling Xfinity for recreational purposes,
might be that's a new one.
Wasn't on my bingo card, but that sounds like a good idea. I think we should give him a call. Maybe we do a live video.
Do a live video. I love it.
Just record it. My question that keeps bubbling up, and this happened during the course of our workshop too, right? I kept thinking about Eric and Nick. Be like, how does this fit into compliance? If we're implementing these agentic AIs and these LLMs into our business, Eric and Nick, how do you guys think about navigating that landscape with your clients?
Yeah, Josh, this is a great question, and I think it's great. We could probably have a whole episode just on compliance with AI. And how we're using it, but we're using it every day. I think, specifically me, I do a lot of auditing for a specific client, whether it could be FTI. We do a lot with CGIS. CGIS is probably one of the biggest. PCI, HIPAA, obviously one of the big, all the big ones. And Eric touched on one of the points I was going to bring up was how quickly these organizations are changing the protocols. They're changing the goal line, right? They're making all these new adjustments that we need to comply with to stay compliant, right? The clients are changing things constantly, so projects are continuing. The length it takes to do a project now is becoming longer because the landscape is changing so much. So that was a long-winded answer to using AI has sped it up for us that we can keep our compliance hats on quicker, easier for many different governing bodies to help organizations stay compliant. Another big one that we use AI for is, and I recently did this maybe 6 months ago, the last time was cybersecurity insurance. So we have some organizations that are going through these long audits, and it can really help bring things into layman's terms to help them get through these long audits, because if anybody's done a cybersecurity insurance audit, they can be very, very long. Eric also talked about building our own AI, right, and keeping that stuff in there so we can generate for the organization, put all these policies in one place. It can make these audits so much easier to do because you can key this up and basically feed it the question, and it's going to get you the answer instead of you going through all this documentation over the years you've maybe been at this organization. You have it right away, and it's cutting edge from A, what you just had most recently, and B, from the compliance standard. So, to me, it's actually and for us, it's one of the biggest helps, I think, to get through these audits.
Nick, I'm going to jump in here because I love everything you said there. And as you mentioned, PCI and CJIS, just to double click on the CJIS piece, CJIS Criminal Justice Information System. So there's sets of data that are labeled CJIS, and the data comes from the FBI because the FBI manages the Criminal Justice Information System, and then states have state level organizations that interpret the FBI policy and apply it at the state level. So in the state of Minnesota, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the BCI, Bureau of Criminal Investigation,
BCA.
BCA, yeah. Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is the state level interpretation of the FBI CJIS policy. And it can get convoluted because the FBI issues policy guidance, and then the BCA comes through and they issue their interpretation of that policy guidance. And one of the sticklers for me, as I play a variety of CISO roles, helping organizations be compliant with the BCA that we've bumped up against, is the requirement of password complexity and password resets. So NIST, the National Institute of Science and Technology, they've issued a standard years ago, like back in 2020, that passwords should not be changed regularly, because regularly changed passwords just encourage people to do spring, 2024, summer 2024, and that because you got to change it and it's got to be different every quarter. So it's a very poor policy. The BCA's interpretation in Minnesota is that the FBI standard still requires that frequent password change. So, every 90 days, but that just leads to users having bad passwords. The new standard is you create a long, complex password, you check to make sure that password is not in a compromised database, and you don't change the password, unless it becomes compromised. That's much more secure. And I'm going to go on a tangent here, but we work a lot in the government space, and sometimes you find that you're working on a project team, and people aren't looking for ways to advance the project. Sometimes they're looking for ways to get in the way of moving quickly. One example of that is people saying, well, that's not PCI compliant. And they don't even know what PCI compliance is, or that's not CJIS compliant, right? Because they hear these things and they think they sound important or they think they have some interpretation that they've heard from somebody else. Bringing it back to AI, you have that policy right in front of you, and sure, the policy is 190 pages, but now I can interrogate that policy. It's publicly available. I could pull it down. I can throw it into Notebook LLM. I can interrogate that policy and say, show me where it says this in the policy or that in the policy, and I can cite back. Well, no, you think you think you're saying this, but it's not true. Here is the actual referenced standard.
What are your thoughts on that, Carter? Do you have anything to add about how you've approached like the cybersecurity angle to AI implementation?
Yeah, so a couple things on that. First of all, what Eric brought up is, I think, one of the more powerful things that it's so many, I was in big corporations for so long, and I remember poring over policy documents because I was always pushing the envelope, but obviously never wanted to go too far to put anything at risk or whatever it might be. And what ended up happening is, you would find one document that would allude to something, and then, that wasn't very crystal clear. But then as an employee, you'd have anxiety about the not clear policy because you're worried you're missing something, right? And you're worried that you might not be in compliance because, heaven forbid, you can't navigate whatever intranet has been built to hold all those policies, and you can't actually do it. And I actually remember downloading the policies and then uploading them into Notebook LM to actually try to figure out how I can interpret those in a better way. But that's just my experience. Coming from like our clients and our customers, one of the interesting things that we have now is we're working a lot with enterprise who do mandate Copilot usage, right? They mandate, the ability for you to, yes, you can use AI, but it has to be within this very protected environment. And really there's two things with that. One, it's actually great, right? I'd rather have them using Copilot and using maybe a little bit more of a watered down, safe AI system than not using AI at all. We've worked with a lot of companies who are just say, nope, never, it's never going to happen, right? And so we welcome them with open arms. The second thing is that ironically, just this morning, we launched Copilot training, right? And what happens is really Copilot training, the stuff we teach and the prompting and that unification of communication and technology that we've talked about 10, 15 minutes ago, it still works in Copilot. It doesn't matter what platform you're on or what large language model you're on. Yeah, you might have some different results. Yeah, some bells and whistles might be limited based on your environment. But at the end of the day, like, these AI systems are so good. I don't really care if it's included in your enterprise system or if it's some off-the-shelf model. We can still see so much benefit from actually deploying this perspective in an internal system. And so we believe that this is a big bridge for us, is the ability of saying, hey, yes, there's been a lot of compliance concerns. My company won't allow me just to use a ChatGPT account in the walls. Like, cool, but you do have Copilot, right? Or you do have another enterprise system that is approved. The great thing about our teaching and what we talk about is again, not one of those shiny tools. Take all the learning and just translate it right into Copilot. And we just actually launched that training here this morning of ensuring people felt comfortable in just some of the Copilot basics. So that's a little bit kind of a two-edged answer, but I do think you guys are spot on.
Interesting. We just got these new hats here from IT Audit Labs. I submitted my design to be made of tinfoil, but they haven't been made yet.
I didn't check the mail yet. I think mine's probably right. It's in the mail.
Your hat. What size hat are you? Are you extra large, large, medium?
Probably just a normal large, straight ahead.
Straight ahead. We have medium / large. Yep.
Perfect.
Or large, extra large.
We got to get the tinfoil version from the audit. I'd be remiss if we didn't get the tinfoil hats section in. So we're going to wrap up today. Unless you guys got something to interject. We're getting towards the end.
Oh, no,
I got a little bit tinfoil. Depends on who you ask, right? If this is tinfoil or mainstream. There's been so much hype, and rightfully so, in the AI space, right? But I'm a big YouTube guy, spend way too much time on YouTube. There is a little bit of FUD in the market, right? I don't know if it's clickbait, and I want to get your take on this, Carter. There is some talk of an AI bubble. There's a lot of investment happening here. We've seen bubbles in the past, whether it's the .com. What's your take on that? Is there a bubble happening, or do you think the amount of investment and money being pumped into this is in lockstep with the development and implementation and the increased productivity?
Yeah, that's a deep question. And one of the things that I love about my job now is I get to see businesses that are scaling in ways they've never been able to scale before. Leaders being able to do things they've never even dreamed about doing, and doing it at a speed that I've never seen before. And I get to see it. I'm, like I said, I feel like I have the best job in the world. I get to see that happening every single day. And so when I think about the bubble, yes, you can look at some data that, you can look at this, you can look at that, you can look at the investment. But I think we are really not even on the verge. I think we are in the middle of just this incredible entrepreneurial powerhouse time, right? And when I look at the businesses who are accurately involving these tools, even in the most simplistic way, we're seeing 3 or 4x output from teams, and whether that math lines up with the investment, I'm not here to actually calculate that. But I do not see a slowing down of this. The amount of success stories we see every single day that are driving tangible revenue for companies is just something I've never seen in my life before. And so I'm a little skeptical on said bubble it's currently kind of hitting the news.
Carter, it's almost like if we rewound the clock to like 93, 94, when companies
Sure.
were starting to come online, and everybody's got those big CRT monitors and everything, and then you had the companies that adopted and were moving into the internet age, and then the companies that hadn't yet adopted it. It seems to me that it's there's still companies that haven't adopted AI, as you were saying, but pretty soon it's like that's just the new standard. Like the new standard is all of the workers are AI enabled. They know how to pose a query into chat just like you would use Google, and you're just going to fall away if you're not there, if you can't do that, if you can't augment your code with a little bit of AI. And
100%.
That's probably where we are transitioning to over the next 5 years or so, where it's just that's the new norm. And we're not going to have these conversations anymore. Almost like, can you do calculus without a graphing calculator? You can't. So,
Right.
Why are we trying to do, hard math, pen and paper, when we have all of these tools that'll do it for us?
Yeah, 100%. And I'll actually add one more dimension to that. There are a lot of companies that are investing in AI tools that are frivolous investments. So the equivalent of what you just brought up, Eric, is like you could have, you could make a significant investment into all of the best machines and computers and CRT monitors in 93. But if they're sitting in a computer lab and no one's actually going in because they don't know how to use it, it doesn't mean you are a technology or digital first company. What I'm seeing right now is that we have a ton of, and big enterprise businesses are the absolute worst at this, in my opinion. But they know they should do something, and the only thing they can do is throw money at the problem. And I'm not saying that's a disadvantage. If you have money, you can do a lot of things. But the amount of tools I've seen invested in and that sit somewhere and no one uses them, or the degree in which they use them are just the 1%. There's a complete mindset shift that has to happen within your employees. And it's not just the executives, it's not just the IT team, it's everyone, to be able to actually use these tools in a way that shifts your perspective, that gets that 4x return. Just because you bought that fancy thing, that fancy tool, doesn't mean that you are AI first. And I think that's why I'm actually seeing it from the ground up. These smaller businesses, as mid-sized companies who can truly embrace it, are seeing the majority of advantages, in my opinion.
It's awesome.
It's pretty simple to me, honestly, and we've said this many times on the podcast. Are you Blockbuster or are you Netflix?
I love Nick's example there of the Blockbuster versus Netflix. And if folks don't know this one, Blockbuster actually wanted to pivot to an online model to compete with Netflix, but that was undermined by Carl Icahn, who was the investor into the organization, and Carl got the CEO fired, and then they brought in another CEO who reversed the strategy. Jim Keyes reversed that strategy to go back to the physical stores, which ended up just killing the company. And it's just like, wow, that was such a pivot point for the company and the investors, that was just spoiled by the overall owner's lack of ability to see vision and the future.
There's still one storefront left in Portland, Oregon, I believe.
Yeah, is it in Bend, Oregon, I think?
Yeah.
There's a documentary about that. I have one last super quick question for Carter, and it is, if you have a question right now, whatever it is, you're looking something up, which AI model are you pulling up? Claude, ChatGPT, who are you?
Depends what you ask.
Oh, I knew you were going to hit me. I knew you were going to get me with that.
But I will answer it. The Swiss Army knife is ChatGPT. If you're looking to write or communicate it's Claude. If I'm looking for real world opinions, knowledge, links, software, it's Grok. And then if I'm looking for more news, current events, it's Perplexity. Right. And so we kind of seamlessly move between all four of them based on kind of the thing I need to get done.
It's a great answer.
Well, we know you're a busy guy, Carter, so thanks so much for joining us again today. You've been listening to The Audit presented by IT Audit Labs. My name is Joshua Schmidt, co-host and producer. Today, we're joined by Eric Brown and Nick Mellum, and our guest is Carter Jensen from The Uncommon Business. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave us a little comment or a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and we'll see you in the next one.
You have been listening to The Audit, presented by IT Audit Labs. We are experts at assessing risk and compliance while providing administrative and technical controls to improve our clients' data security. Our threat assessments find the soft spots before the bad guys do, identifying likelihood and impact, while our security control assessments rank the level of maturity relative to the size of your organization. Thanks to our devoted listeners and followers, as well as our producer, Joshua J. Schmidt, and our audio-video editor, Cameron Hill. You can stay up to date on the latest cybersecurity topics by giving us a like and a follow on our socials and subscribing to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you source your security content.